evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show that, even if I'm not at work, I feel like I'm doing labor. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dog Cat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Terrifying Thursday. Yes, we return once again to the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks for information and education. I call it a weekly habit. Sure, why not? And who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening as we begin the first full week, or I actually come to the end, pardon me, of the first full week of the new year. The Alexandier, good evening. Cynic, good evening. Abdicatus Diaboli, good evening to you. Aspianti, good evening. Mike R., good evening. Adam Nixon, good evening to you. Kiro Soldier, hello. Roasted Opinions, hello. Attack Alpaca, good evening. Who else is here? Keeverdam, hello. And Keeverdam being here reminds me, at the top of the chat box, guys, I have a donation link there for the global giving charity site for the wildfire relief in California. For those of you that do not know, and I imagine there's probably very few of you, absolutely catastrophic, nigh apocalyptic wildfires still going on as I speak in California, Los Angeles area. If you are able to donate, please do so. And even if you're not, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. And as well, when it comes to any charity for a disaster like this, be sure to check that the charity you're donating to is a verified charity. There are a lot of scalpers out there and unseemly people that'll take advantage of a crisis for their own gain. In this case, Global Giving is a authorized and verified charity for this kind of stuff. They helped out with the Hawaii wildfires and several other things, and the wildfires back in 2018, I think it was. But yeah, so take a look at that, and please donate if you're able. Holy cats! Speaking of which, before it disappears, Derek LaRue. Damn, Derek, thank you so much. That's ridiculously generous of you, as always. Thank you so much. I appreciate your continued support and great generosity. Thank you. Thank you. Hope you enjoy the show. Caught off guard there. I was ambushed by Derek. How dare you? Pardon me while I scroll back up a little to make sure I don't miss anybody. Oh, Miranda Stone's here. Hey, you guys know about Miranda Stone, don't you? Well, let me tell you about Miranda Stone. Good evening, Miranda Stone. Funtime Bats, good evening. Robert Pincus, good evening to you. Corey Suzuki, hello. The Best Remy, good evening. Blitz Zero, hello. Angelverse, hello. Shady Grin, good evening. Simon Willikins, here on time because I took a nap earlier today. Well, that's what I call being prepared. Simon Willikins, were you a Cub Scout by any chance, or a Boy Scout? I never made it past Cub Scout. I just didn't have the ambition, I suppose. Emperor W.R. Costin, good evening. Mashisu, where have you? Holy cow, this is a rare event. When was the last time Mashisu was on here? Nice to see you, Mash. Hope you're doing good. Yes, Mashisu, a veteran of Lords of the Night and Ranting Monkey, Monkey in the Morning, and nice to see you. Hope you're doing good. You know, I have this, memory for names I haven't said out loud in a long time, and I think yours is one of them. Nice to see you, Mesh. Daryl Odell, good evening. Seftus Wolf, good evening to you. Pissed Off Shitsu, hello. Tier Alexander, good evening. Who else is here? Oh my gosh. Draco Rinchwin. Like I got marbles in my mouth or something. Draco Rincewind, good evening. Let's see. Scribe, how do you feel about ABC planning to do a weekend version of The View on their streaming service? I feel great about it. If ABC wants to continue wasting their money on nonsense that's just going to become content for people like Ranting Monkey and half a dozen other YouTubers I know, that's fine by me. Sure. It's all good. Whatever they want to do. More speech, not less. And if it's coming from a View clone, I'm sure it'll be great. Toot sweet. Good evening, Darren Root. Good evening, Found. Hello. And I think that's everybody for right now. Otherwise, if you're lurking, if I missed you, I hope not, or if you're in the future, hello. All right, so tonight is the night where we watch TEDx. Like so many other TEDx's in the past, this one caught me by its title initially because I was not sure what it meant. And generally speaking, I don't read descriptions of videos unless I'm really confused. But I didn't really have to read the description of this one. I didn't even have to click on the little more thing to extend the description out fully because I caught one word in the first sentence or so of the description. But tonight's title is, How Does Workplace Trauma Really Affect Us? And so before I glanced at the description, I thought to myself, workplace trauma. I thought of like being injured on the job. I thought of, deadliest catch, deep sea fishing, or working at a factory, or, falling down or something like that. Someone that's had an injury at work and then has to like deal with it. But no, I caught one word in the description that told me everything I needed to know. And that word was microaggressions. Oh boy. Speaking of which, that is the one square that is currently under review for possible refurbishment or replacement. But if the speaker actually brings up the word in this, then there's no debate and no abstraction about why we would circle it. So that'll make it easy tonight, if it's actually a part of the presentation. But we'll find out. Speaking of circling squares, tonight's bingo card is bingo card C. C as in Wet Willie, which was the winner of the microaggression on the poll today over on Twitter. If you'd like to follow along each week on Twitter for the poll, sorry, X. I keep forgetting it's X. My X or X account or whatever is at scribe_light down there in the bottom of the corner there on the screen. Links to the bingo cards are in the description. Get your bingo card C's ready. Thank you, Keeverdam. I have trauma from not being able to actually watch. Oh, Keeverdam's having to work. Yes, well, into each life, a little work must fall. But, Keeverdam, when you do have the opportunity to watch this, you'll learn better how to survive the trauma that is the workplace, I assume. Also, quick note, if you happen to see this stream posted on X, because I am currently simulcasting on X, if you would retweet or re-X or whatever they're calling it these days, I'd appreciate it. Let people know that this exists in a different platform somewhere. I've had a whole bunch of new people following me on X recently, which was kind of weird. Like all of a sudden I had like 5 or 6. I assume they're not all bots. They could be, though. They could be. Kirsten Scholl over on X, a.k.a. K-Scholl. Thank you so much, Kirsten. Appreciate it. And also Brian Morissette. Good evening. All right, so with all that as preamble, I think I've covered everything. Let's see. This one clocks in at just under 16 minutes. Oh, man. And Austin is here. Also, Gulf City Peterbilt Confederacy. There's a name I haven't said in a long time either. Holy cow. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing good. Yes, so trauma in the workplace, presumably microaggressions. Get your bingo cards ready. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. Let me know if you can hear this. And oh my gosh, it's in Oshkosh.
My pulse was 120.
Your pulse was 120? Well, being a not medical professional, I don't know if that's good or bad. What is a healthy pulse? I don't know. Bridget. Good evening. And Miranda Stone says, good. It could apply to many things. I mean, it could be, I guess the sound is good, I suppose. All right. Well, 120.
I felt short of breath. My hands were clammy, and I hadn't been doing anything.
Okay. That doesn't sound good. That sounds like a medical emergency. Darren Root says a little loud. Yeah, I did boost this one a little bit because the sound was a little quiet. So I'll tell you what, I'll bring it down a notch or two. I don't want it to overwhelm me or you, as I go very Dr. Seuss there for a second. Anyway, so pulse is 120, hands are clammy, heart was beating.
I certainly wasn't giving a TEDx talk.
Yeah, well, I admittedly, that would probably make me more nervous than I probably deserve. November of 2024, okay.
I grabbed my purse and I rushed to the closest clinic where they gave me a quick workup, and the results came back that everything was fine.
Well, okay. You just had a moment.
I asked what could possibly be going on because I didn't feel fine.
Okay. I know where this is going, right? I'm just waiting for how it's going to be presented. What caused her to have 120 pulse, clammy hands, and shortness of breath?
And that was the day that I had my first anxiety attack.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in this case, I can empathize. I mean, I still do to a certain extent with anxiety since I was in my early 20s. It kind of had an onset around then. Not fun. Anxiety attacks are not fun. Getting freaked out over the tiniest things. Ooh, is that where we're going?
You've all likely witnessed it. The new
Mm.
hire pitching that fresh idea, only to be met with receptive laughter, and then followed with the all too common, it doesn't work like that here.
I haven't. But then I've only worked at two company situations where you might see something like that.
I know one way I experience it is through the silent anguish of rewriting an email umpteen times because I want to sound professional and direct, but not too direct. I've already had that sit down with my boss around my communication having too much of an edge.
Okay. Well, I mean, see, this is a rare instance where I have a lot of sympathy for our speaker. Because I've been through that kind of thing before. Racing thoughts, double checking everything, sending out an email with a obvious misspelling in it, and then freaking out about it to an unreasonable extent. So I've been there, so I can understand. I can understand. Now, is sympathy for her, and I'm just speculating here, is sympathy for her being built up at the beginning of this going to be used as a Trojan horse situation to get the audience to go along with something more ridiculous later?
So I'll add more exclamation points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but not there because it's too close to the last one. And this
Mm-hmm.
one might be one too many overall. So I'm just going to leave it off, call it balanced, and now it's ready to send.
Mm-hmm.
Many are quick to chalk these behaviors up to anxiety.
Yeah, or, perfectionism or nervousness or imposter syndrome or who knows what. A bunch of things could explain it.
And you know us millennials, we're so sensitive sometimes.
Oh, you're a millennial. That explains a lot.
But what if this wasn't anxiety?
Oh.
And what if we weren't all that sensitive?
So you don't have... Okay. Well, I mean, an anxiety attack does not necessarily mean you suffer from generalized chronic anxiety. That's true. I hadn't thought about that. Okay. So what if it isn't?
What if these were actually symptoms of workplace trauma?
Oh, what if Dr. Doom became the Sorcerer Supreme?
While we readily call out a toxic workplace culture, we're often reluctant to quantify the overall impact of those actions as workplace trauma.
You're right, because workplace trauma implies usually something physical. Some persistent... I mean, you could say some kind of persistent psychological harassment or something. Sure. Overt, certainly. Is that where you're going or not?
I believe workplace trauma goes beyond the major elements that were quizzed on in our annual code of conduct trainings, like racism and sexism.
Racism and sexism? Have I ever had a code of conduct training? I did sit through a sensitivity training thing once where they showed us this video of various examples of people doing things in the workplace that were inappropriate. And I remember I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm sitting there, and me being the smartass that I am, we watched a clip, one of the skits on the video of people making snide comments behind the back of someone who was overweight and laughing about it. And the trainer stops the video and asks everybody gathered, like, now, why would people make fun of someone else behind their back? And, not a lot of people in the room were really excited about being there in the first place or participating. But me, who had been picked on and bullied as a kid and kind of understood something about the psychology of children or people in general, I spoke up and said, well, this is how you form bonds between people, by having a common enemy or person that's outside of the group. And the lady looked at me like I was out of my mind or something. And everybody in the room kind of laughed, because I was like, well, that's how people work. That's how camaraderie is made oftentimes. It's not necessarily nice, but it's completely human. But anyway, that's the closest I've ever come to a sensitivity training. I don't think I've ever done one on racism or sexism before. I think I got enough of that through TEDx.
which are also essential discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But what it often overlooks are the subtle, more nuanced behaviors like microaggressions.
Oh, microaggressions. All right, going over to the bingo card for the first time tonight. Over on the bingo card, circling microaggressions or unconscious bias and free space, because, well, it's free. Remember, this is bingo card C. Links are in the description of the video. Let's go over the bingo card one time here to remind ourselves what we're listening for. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'd be surprised if we didn't have it in here somewhere. Word salad, perhaps. Mind reading or assumes motives. That's almost part and parcel with a discussion of microaggressions, but we'll see. A list. Remember, that has to be a formal list within the presentation. Marginalized or marginalization. Patriarchy. Contradicts own point or fails to make argument. Feminism. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Systemic or institutional. Anecdote that probably never happened. White supremacy. Childhood or family anecdote. Leaves out vital context. Weightless example or non sequitur. Sales pitch for product or service. Privilege. Collectivizes own demographic. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Economic disparity. Benevolent condescension. Plays victim. And lastly, deceptive statistics. And in fact, I'm going to circle collectivizes own demographic, as she already referred to herself in the general term of millennial. So circling that one. So on the board already, we have free space, collectivizes own demographic, and microaggressions or unconscious bias. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them, because there'll be time at the end of the show to go over the card in full.
Which over time can gradually erode a person's natural style and approach.
Right. Death by 1,000 cuts, in other words.
Microaggressions are slight, usually unintentional actions and comments that show bias or discrimination.
There's a key word in there that we need to keep in mind in her own definition. Unintentional.
They can target any aspect of someone's identity.
Unintentional.
Like race, parental status, even intellectual abilities.
Unintentional.
And they happen in everyday interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And while they may seem minor,
they are, I would refer you to the first part of their own term, micro.
Over time, they prevent genuine connections from being made and lead to a lack of engagement.
That could be, and I'm just guessing here, a you problem.
It's women hearing comments like, "You're bold." Well, thank you.
It's women hearing comments like, "You're bold." Okay. I'm getting ready to circle plays victim.
I think.
You think? Oh, so you're not sure. So you're debating as to whether or not you should be offended?
Was that meant to be a compliment?
Is that what you said to the person?
What exactly is that supposed to mean?
And then they look at you like, I'm going to go this direction now.
Are women not capable of being strong, bold leaders too?
I'm gonna go back to my cubicle now.
It's not always what's being said, but rather implied.
Right. Yes, because reading between the lines of a cookbook is always a productive endeavor.
That starts to become the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really one of my many experiences where leadership deemed me bold, too bold maybe, even aggressive.
Or deemed you, or was just saying it as it is? Mind reading assumes motive, circling that one on the board. See, here's your first mistake, lady. Oh, sorry. I said lady, like that was some, pardon me. This was your first mistake, human. When someone says you're bold, they are talking about you, the individual, not the demographic. Because generally speaking, most people, not all, but most people, when they speak to a person about their behavior or their attitude or the way that they carry themselves or something else, is commenting on individual action and not making a broad demographic statement. Now, I know you're very sensitive and you've got anxiety. So obviously, you're going to take something somebody says, as we've just seen demonstrated to us, and uh, expand it and inflate it into something that it isn't, turning a, molehill into a mountain. But okay, you do you. Hopefully, I didn't back up too much, but we can hear it again.
Maybe even aggressive, because
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we did want to hear that. Sorry, back up a little bit more. Here we go.
but rather implied that starts to become the issue. And this is really one of my many experiences where leadership deemed me bold, too bold maybe, even aggressive, because I had shared my thoughts and feedback with them.
How did you share your thoughts and feedback? Was it productive? Was it vindictive? Were you simply being obnoxious? Were you actually productive? Can you have a objective assessment of your own behavior if you're already thinking everybody's out to get you? I know these are big questions. These are really big questions.
Despite the fact that they asked me to do so directly.
Right. Okay. Are you going to give us some more context? Like, what did they actually say? And then how did you actually respond? Like, if they say, we want you to do this thing, and then you go completely overboard on it, and they say, whoa, rein it in a little bit, because you went beyond the boundaries of their needs, wants, desires, and so on, are you going to take that as an insult or them just sort of trying to moderate your role? I mean, it's not impossible.
Even when these comments aren't meant to harm, they can still spread stereotypes and reinforce inequalities.
Oh,
And research shows that these small acts can have huge impacts on someone over the course of a career.
ooh, research shows. Please tell me it's McKinsey.
Higher rates of depression,
Mm,
long-term stress, and
mm.
even chronic physical symptoms like headaches, high blood pressure, and trouble sleeping.
I hate to tell you this. Here's the thing. When I was having anxiety, like when I was in the midst of it, I had the fortune, I guess if you want to call it that, of being aware of where it was coming from. I knew it was being generated from me. I knew my reactions to things were unreasonable. This is the hell of actual anxiety, is that if you're fortunate, and my father wasn't, but if you're fortunate enough to be aware of the fact that you have a problem, but there's nothing you can do to turn it off, all you can do is manage it. My father, like the awareness of anxiety or mental disorders or things like that was not as well known or well talked about in my father's day as it is in my day. So when my father was having these problems and feelings and everything else, he blamed himself, not some existential aspect of his chemical makeup that he had no control over. And that became a big problem in the relationship between my father and the rest of my family over the course of my childhood. Since then, I have come to understand what he was going through, and he has too. And so when it started hitting me, I knew exactly what was happening. I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to suffer through it. But I knew where it was coming from. I knew whose fault it was, even if I could sort of parlay the blame a little bit to something I had no control over. I didn't blame other people for it. If somebody said something that set me on edge, my first thought was, you're overreacting. It's nothing. Because I could still maintain my rational brain even in the midst of this monster that was constantly growling at me. In her case, apparently it's everyone else's fault. Sounds like.
Ultimately, when people experience microaggressions, they can stop feeling safe, and instead they may feel compelled to conform. And that leads to the development of a deeper, more insidious form of workplace trauma, one that takes away our ability to show up authentically.
Sounds like making excuses. People are being mean to me, so I'm going to turtle up into a little shell. I have a very difficult time giving myself much credit in life in general, but I will give myself this much credit. Despite all of the absolute daily insanity I was going through, I still maintained a job, still maintained a social life and relationships, sometimes with difficulty. Well, lots of times with difficulty, but I didn't just curl up into a ball and say, the world's out to get me, and I'm just going to sit here and cry about it. Everybody's different. I'm only speaking from my personal experience. Trust me. Like I say, I have sympathy for anybody that's going through something similar to what I went through, worse or lesser, because sometimes you just can't do anything about it. But ultimately, you are responsible for your own choices, your own reactions, and how you deal with situations. Okay. Unless you are completely out of your mind, and I never was. Well, not never, but, at least not in public. It all still falls on your shoulders. So, microaggressions. Did you actually experience microaggressions, or did you invite them of your own imagination to create an excuse for your own failings? I know. It's just a what if.
Data has shown that nearly 4 out of every 10 employees experience a microaggression on at least a monthly basis.
You can't possibly know that. Okay, I'm circling deceptive statistics. 4 out of 10 experience a microaggression. Something that somebody says that may be unintentional that you decide to take a particular way. Okay. Circling deceptive statistics. Sure. You know what? I'll tell you what. I bet you 10 out of 10 employees experience a microaggression. I bet it's 10 out of 10. Whether they choose to make one out of something or not is entirely up to them. Only 4 out of the 10 actually do, though. Oh, hit the button.
And 3 of those 4 people report it to have a direct negative impact on their productivity.
Uh-oh.
Add to this the fact that the recent 3-year average for Gallup engagement polls shows that 66% of American employees are disengaged at work.
66% are disengaged at work. What does that have to do with microaggressions?
And now we have a recipe for disaster when it comes to employee satisfaction.
Okay, I know this might be old-fashioned, old school kind of thing. Unless you get really lucky in life, work is not necessarily fun every day. I've been dissatisfied at work before, but I'm getting paid to do a job, so I nut up and I shut up. I put my head down. I get my job done. It's not a theme park. Not necessarily, unless you work at a theme park, which could also be fun or not.
Companies usually spend countless hours and resources chasing better employee engagement scores.
Okay.
More team building, better employee resource groups.
Employee resource groups? Oh my God. I haven't done anything on ERGs in quite a while, have I? Oh man, I need to see if there's a recent panel or something on ERGs. See how those are doing in the midst of the decline of DEI. Oh boy, ERGs. Are you going to talk about veterans groups last?
And other various initiatives that are all aimed at fostering connection.
And
connection is essential.
Yeah.
But people don't necessarily want it if they can't show up authentically.
Are we going to bring our whole self to work? Again, is this a job or is it daycare? Am I there to work or am I there to have my emotions counseled?
True engagement necessitates authenticity.
I thought we were talking about microaggressions. Authenticity. Boy, oh boy. Alice Morgan. Good evening. Sander Hammerslag. Good evening. Anybody else I missed in the meantime? Judge Ugly, good evening. Assassin of the Gray, hello. Anybody else? Your internet's favorite lunatic, good evening. Roan Hirushin, good evening to you. Did I miss anybody else? Swirly, good evening. Tony Giff, nice to see you. And Secret Vampire Eris, good evening to you. If I missed anybody, I hope I... Oh, Adam Myers, hello. If I have to miss anybody else, I'll try to get to some more hellos later. But anyway, yes, authenticity. We have to show up authentically to work. If I can't show up authentically to work, well, I'm not going to work for you. What does showing up authentically mean? Well, I want to be able to walk around in my bathrobe and slippers and leave Cheeto dust all over the floor. Not because I'm eating Cheetos. I just want to crumble up Cheetos in my hands and like leave a trail. Is that okay? That's authentic to me. I mean, that's my authentic self. And if you say I can't do that, well, I don't know if you're worthy of my employ.
And if people are showing up after hours in different personas compared to their workplace identities,
what?
I believe that's a sign that your culture is pressuring them to adhere to specific molds.
Whoa. Back up. Okay. This is word salad territory, if not WTF territory. Let's try that one more time. I might have to take that in portions.
And if people are showing up after hours in different personas.
If people are showing up after hours in different personas
compared to their workplace identities, I believe that's a sign that your culture is pressuring them to adhere to specific molds.
Okay, lady. Pardon me. Sorry, human. Oh, before then. Adam Myers, thank you so much. Authentic, but not politically authentic. Well, here's the thing about authenticity. Okay, and this is I've talked about this many times over the years. There is, and I know you guys know this, but just for the sake of the record, there is a difference between the working scribe and the on his own time scribe. I know. It's sort of like, you ever hear of inside voices? You ever remember your teacher admonishing you to use your inside voice? Yeah. So this is what we call professional distance, where your work is your work and your real life is your real life. And the lady is, sorry. The human on the stage giving the talk is exactly right. There is a different persona after work hours than during work hours. Because there's the professional me, and then there's the me. The screaming me, perhaps. But the one that I keep in check while I'm at work because I try to conduct myself professionally. Now, when you reduce professional distance, when you reduce the line between a working life and your real life, there be dragons, let's just say. But now she's saying that if I come to work and I am there to work and focus on doing my work, and I'm not being myself in a way that is satisfying to her in some way, or she's constantly questioning whether or not I'm authentic, that's a problem. Oh boy. All right. Well, if you want everybody to be exactly as they are in their normal life, again, do you want me walking around the office in my bathrobe, crumbling Cheeto dust all over the floor? Not that I do that at my own place, but if I just decide one day that's my authentic self for that Tuesday, is that okay? So having a professional self and a casual, my own time self is a bad thing. How did you put it again? Sorry.
True engagement necessitates authenticity. And if people are showing up after hours in different personas compared to their workplace identities, I believe that's a sign that your culture is pressuring them to adhere to specific molds.
Like a dress code? Or a code of conduct, or inside voices?
Because when showing up authentically puts connecting with others at risk, many of us will choose to abandon our authenticity.
Okay. Word salad for days, circling word salad. And, yeah. Okay. Also, because I had to go over that twice, once, twice, 3 times a...
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, we're going to do a WTF because that was just all over the place nonsense and detached from reality of how the working world operates and how people would actually want their company to operate, I think. Mashishu asks a very good question right now. Scribelight, is she being authentic right now? I think she is. I think she's being authentic as she can be on a TEDx stage with a prepared speech and judgy kind of demeanor and, kind of downward glance at everybody. Yeah. Also, I know someone else who's also completely authentic, and that's Walter Tomaszewski. Good evening, Walter Tomaszewski. If you don't know about Walter Tomaszewski, that's how you say his last name. I'm the only one who can do it. I'm magic. I'm philologically magical. Philologically? I don't even know if that's a word. It's a word now. Because if I can say Tomaszewski correctly, anything I say is correct.
And when we start to consider this impact on already marginalized groups, we
marginalized, circling marginalization on the board. Oh boy. Already we got a WTF, and we're not quite close to a bingo yet, but there's probably some other squares I could circle.
can assume the effects are likely compounded.
Oh, because people who are from marginalized groups are naturally more fragile than the rest of us.
Because they're already experiencing a statistically higher rate of discrimination.
Okay. Benevolent condescension, circling that one as well. Obviously, anybody who is of a particular demographic is already a victim. I'm also going to circle plays victim because of the whole, you think I'm bold? That whole thing. All right, so just as a reminder, we're on bingo card C. What is currently circled on bingo card C? From the top, word salad, mind reading assumes motives, marginalize, marginalization, free space, collectivizes own demographic, benevolent condescension, plays victim, deceptive statistics, and microaggressions or unconscious bias. So got those there. Let's see. So yes, tells about marginalized individuals again.
Already marginalized groups, we can assume the effects are likely compounded because they're already experiencing a statistically higher rate of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, for me, a lot of my workplace trauma stems from the misunderstanding of the neurodivergent mind.
Oh, so you're neurodivergent. You're special.
In February of 2023, I was diagnosed ADHD, or autistic and ADHD.
Wow. One more and I think you get a free Coke or something.
And this diagnosis was the validation that I needed.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I believe it.
In order to know that my brain did work differently than other people's.
Oh, right. Yeah, everybody else is wrong and I've been right this whole time.
And that validation allowed me to start giving myself enough grace to show up more authentically.
It gave you license to do whatever you want because you could point to your diagnosis as a get out of jail free card. I know. Wait, where did that come from? Holy cow. Why did I say that? I'm just jaded. I am just jaded and cynical. What can I tell you? I don't know. It's difficult for me to see the best in people sometimes when I'm constantly being told that nothing they do is really anything that can be criticized. It's just something that I don't know why that gets to me. So, maybe I'm oversensitive. Maybe that's a microaggression. Is TEDx laying a microaggression on me right now?
Before receiving my diagnosis, I worked hard to build elements of this corporate mask.
You mean a professional demeanor in the workplace?
Some of the traits that I exhibit in my neurodivergence, and not everybody is the same, is difficulty with eye contact.
I have difficulty with eye contact.
And a very literal, direct communication style.
I guess it depends on the circumstances. I mean, if somebody's giving me instructions for something, I want to make sure I get it correct. So if there's any ambiguity, I ask for more details. I know if you can believe that from me. Direct and literal. I don't know. I might be my own worst witness on that particular question.
Pair that with a high pattern recognition capability.
A pattern recognition capability. Boy, you know, I 2 out of 3 so far. Maybe 3 out of 3. It's hard to say. Okay. So am I also neurodivergent?
and an altruistic approach.
Whoa. Sorry. Let's back up. What was that again?
Difficulty with eye contact and a
Right.
very literal, direct communication style.
Mm-hmm.
Pair that with a high pattern recognition capability and an altruistic approach.
And an altruistic approach. Oh, okay. So everything that you do is ultimately benevolent. Okay.
And suddenly I have a lifetime of lessons learned around how I should do just about anything in the workplace.
Should. Okay. Well, then, I guess anybody who would criticize you for how you behave in the workplace is obviously wrong. Right?
That anxiety attack that I had,
Mm-hmm.
it happened because I was convinced that I needed to show up in a way that was going to be accepted, included, and seen.
That is a you problem.
I had goals and aspirations. I couldn't be seen as aggressive. I should tone it down.
Yeah, that might be a good idea if you had noticed that within yourself. You had enough self-awareness and reflection to know that you'd gotten a little bit too worked up or crossed a line. Just take a deep breath and, take your time. Sometimes the correct idea is to stay in your lane.
Smile more.
Sure.
Soften my approach.
Yeah, okay.
But all of the energy that I was putting into building these elements of this mask
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in alignment with who I was.
Okay. Unless your job is somehow asking you to violate a code of morality or something, there is a working you and there is a on your own time you. I know. The idea of professional distance seems like a lot of work. Why can't I just be me at work? Because you're not being paid to be you. You're being paid to do a job.
And since learning more about myself, I began
Mhm.
leaning into embracing who I am.
Oh, good. You can do that on your own time. Boy, I sound like such a taskmaster, don't I?
I don't shy away from it and I don't try to hide it.
Okay.
I've learned a lot of really great coping techniques to work better with it.
I believe you are doing a lot of cope.
And within the first year after
Mhm.
receiving my diagnosis,
Yeah.
I lost 30 pounds.
Okay, what has that got to do with anything?
I didn't change my diet or exercise.
I don't believe you. Wait a second. Are you on any additional medication since your diagnosis?
I just learned to embrace and show up as my true self.
Okay, wait a second. Just wait a second. Wait a second. Okay, so somehow through simple psychic matter transfer, you lost weight without changing either your diet or your exercise regimen. Oh, okay. I totally believe you. Also, hello, Meh and Carlos Alfredo Lopez. Good evening. Resolute Germ. Good evening to you. Frosted Glass. Hello. And yeah, you know what? That's going to be, if you can believe it, an anecdote that probably never happened. Circling that one on the board. Yeah, that's yeah, not flying with me. Giant X to doubt on that one.
Navigating the corporate world as a neurodivergent has always been difficult.
I'm sure it has. It's been a great burden, likely for everyone around you.
It doesn't come easy to me and it isn't natural.
Oh, okay.
But if I turn to Google and ask how to get ahead at work,
Oh my gosh. You know, sometimes my brain goes straight back to third grade humor, and I love it.
I'll find relatively recent Forbes articles telling me
Oh,
that in order to succeed,
yeah.
I better take the time and energy to learn how to master the complexities of the office politics.
You know, that is a way. There's some, you know, there is some usefulness in Machiavellian thinking when it comes to the office, if that is your goal, if climbing the ladder and gaining power and influence and so on is really what you want, then there you go. But I guess the real question is, what exactly are your personal goals? Right? And I'm, you know, sort of obviously rhetorically, but still sort of sincerely asking our speaker, though she can't hear me. What exactly is it that she's trying to overcome in order to achieve on the other side of this barrier she keeps running into? She just wants acceptance. She wants to be seen and heard and so on. Okay, well, depending on the circumstances, you're going to have to play some form of the office politic. You have to see where you can get your foot in the door to get influence or to get yourself heard or where you fit. You have to earn your credibility over time before you start making grand declarations or putting your foot into different ideas in place. There is some finesse that has to occur, but it all depends on what you're trying to do. So, what are you trying to do? What does she want to be when she grows up?
Gee, thanks.
Lady, I don't know what, sorry, human on the stage. It's not bad advice if you're trying to climb the ladder.
Because it's those politics that have always made me feel as if I've needed to alter myself to better conform.
You do. If you are not capable or not willing to adapt to a situation in order to meet the needs of the moment, then you will go nowhere. If you want the world to adapt itself to you, it's never going to happen. I don't know what to tell you. I hope this lesson has not been lost on the entire generation of millennials, although it seems to have. It's just, this is frustrating.
And that conformity came at a cost.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's easy to see that this likely comes at a cost for everyone, not just for neurodivergence.
Oh, okay. So it's not just you, it's everybody else too. Okay.
Not showing up authentically has its own negative side effects. Again, higher rates of depression, low self-worth, over time, a lost sense of identity, and even deep-seated feelings of loneliness.
All from being at work and doing your job. I guess I'm just very old-fashioned. I'm very old-fashioned. I don't expect to go to work and have it be a day spa, but whatever.
Identity, and even deep-seated feelings of loneliness, despite the fact that you may be surrounded by people.
Yeah, well, feeling lonely in a room full of people, I know how that is. At work, I'm kind of in my own little cubicle, so.
And if this wasn't bad enough, I also believe that from a business perspective, if your people can't show up to work authentically, that likely means that you're also losing talent.
Oh, the business case. All right. So here's the bottom line business case as to why you need to tailor the workplace to me. Regardless of how my behavior may come across, I am correct, and any restrictions or repressions you place upon me are wrong.
Let's assume that the personalities in a company are distributed across this standard bell curve. You have those on the front end who are natural innovators and early adopters. They're quick to jump in. They want to try new things.
Sure.
You have those in the middle who kind of wait for things to make sense. They more go with the flow. And you have those towards the tail end who might be a little late to the party. And if they are really late or don't want to show up at all, I call those my cave people. They're citizens against virtually everything.
Those are the people I would usually promote to customer.
They have their place too.
Yeah, it's called not in the company.
And if we think about this from a personality perspective, it makes sense, right? But if we take a step back and we look at it from our behaviors, say in our ways of working, management wants far more people to fit into this middle makes sense category.
Yes, to come to work and do the jobs that they're paid to do, and unless they are in a leadership or management or development role, stay in their lane. Otherwise, the productivity of the job that they've been employed to do will drop. Concentration, focus, and dedication on what you're being paid to do. And if there are opportunities for advancement or going outside the lines, then great. Do it on your own time or at authorized times. Do you know how businesses work by any chance?
They favor the consistent over the creative.
Yes. Reliable. The cog in the machine. Yeah, this is kind of the downside of the whole corporate structure, but it's how these things work.
Or the stubborn.
Uh-huh.
After all, why are we implementing those standard operating procedures if we aren't aiming for some level of uniformity?
Yes. If you want to innovate, well then, if you can, but what exactly are you trying to do? Who are you advocating for here?
And with the rising costs of hiring and the significant investments required for employee retention, I believe that embracing authenticity may actually serve as your most valuable cost-saving strategy.
Or it could create a completely chaotic workplace where the line between your personal life and your professional life is blurred to the point where you can't tell the difference one from the other, and people start getting very, very attached to one another. And when the time comes where you have to correct or even fire someone, it becomes an absolute bedlam of a situation where, no, you can't get rid of my best friend. He's everyone's friend here. We're so authentic together. There are advantages in the workplace, both to the employees and the managers and the owners, to compartmentalization. I don't know if you know how a corporation or a business works oftentimes. It's not all beanbags and kumbaya.
By fostering an environment that values authenticity, everyone benefits.
Do they though? And what do you mean by I need an example. I need her to give us an example of an authentic worker. What does an authentic worker look like as compared to an inauthentic worker? Are we going to get that? I hope we do. I just spotted this. I will give it a moment here. Advocast Daily. Scribelight, she just contradicted herself, saying uniformity is a desirable thing, and yet conformity is not. They are the same thing. Did she say uniformity is a desirable? Was she describing what the company wants? Did she? Hold on. I'm going to back up a second. All right, let's listen to a little bit more.
Standard operating procedures if we aren't aiming for some level of uniformity.
Right, hold on.
They favor the consistent over the creative.
Yes, management favors consistent over creative.
Or the stubborn.
After
all, why are we implementing those standard operating procedures if we aren't aiming for some level of uniformity?
I think she's talking on behalf of the management there. I don't know if she's contradicting herself.
And with the rising costs of hiring and the significant investments required for employee retention, I believe that embracing authenticity may actually serve as your most valuable cost-saving strategy.
Yeah, you might have to hold off on your okay, maybe I think she was hypothetically speaking from the management's perspective in making that statement. So I don't think she was contradicting herself. She was trying to underscore the intractable nature of management's perspective on the value of their employees, I think.
By fostering an environment that values authenticity, everyone benefits.
If you say so, how?
And so rather than insist that employees are spending time and energy learning how to play the game, what if instead we insisted they learn how to better show up for one another?
Stop talking in abstracts. Give me an actual example of what you mean, even a hypothetical one. Otherwise, we're going straight for leaves out vital context. You've already crossed the line in a lot of ways, but definitely at this point, you have to start getting more specific. Hit the button.
Because successful companies recognize the vital need to facilitate these authentic interactions
What is an authentic interaction? What happened to microaggressions?
that are grounded in safety and trust,
Like what?
but also in validation.
You really need that validation, don't you?
Because true validation shows someone that you understand their feelings and their point of view, even when you disagree.
Or, and here's the part that I don't know if you're willing to consider, even if they're wrong. If someone is in so need of validation that they can't take honest, constructive critique,
It requires you to see things from their perspective, which helps build trust with that other person and makes them feel more supported.
okay.
I think that in order for anyone to feel safe showing up authentically, they also have to feel validated.
Look, the operative term in self-esteem is self. No one is responsible for your self-esteem. Okay? If you want to come to work every day and have your employer go, "Oh, you're such a good girl showing up to work. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. Oh, what nice shoes you're wearing today." Come on. You know, you're not doing, as a representative of your generation millennial, you're not doing a very good job as ambassador.
They have to feel seen. They have to feel heard. They can't feel slighted, disregarded, or steamrolled.
Well, we were just talking about microaggressions, right? Feel slighted could be, and I know this is crazy. Sorry, not crazy. That would be derogatory to your, neurodivergent state. It could be. I'm running out of vocabulary now. Difficult. It could be difficult, but it might be the case that it's all in your imagination, and your constant need for validation takes anything that isn't validation as a direct slight. Did you ever consider that possibility?
And the reality is that we all have no choice but to carry who we are with us each and every day.
You're correct.
We all come from different backgrounds,
Backgrounds,
different experiences,
experiences,
and different upbringings, different past traumas.
And how are any of those my problem? If I'm at work and you're at work, your experiences and skills and background in your job are relevant to me. Your personal problems, you leave at the door. But of course, that would require you to be a professional. Thank you, Frosted Glass. There's a great significance to the passage of time. It's true. If you make the time significant. And I think I might have just pulled a Sphinx from Mystery Men out of that one, but anyway.
And so inevitably, we will trigger another person, likely with that microaggression.
Oh. Or we didn't do anything. They chose to take offense.
And when triggered, our body kicks us into fight or flight mode. And when we're in fight or flight, that's when we become who we think we need to be in order to survive that moment.
Okay, so what what trail of logic are you setting up now to justify bad behavior?
And validation has been shown to be incredibly successful for navigating and de-escalating these emotionally charged moments.
Yeah, sure. If someone gets upset that somebody said something that they decided to take offense to, I could treat them like a child and say, "Oh, there, little one. It's okay. You're not actually bold like that guy said earlier. You're just meek. You're a very meek person. You're looking to create a layered hug box in the workplace, are you?"
Which means if we can validate our people intentionally, we can work to settle the body's nervous system and bring it back down into a more grounded state.
Jesus Christ.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
What? Okay, we are too late in the game now. You have to. Okay, I'm circling leaves out vital context. This is just getting silly. I don't even know what else to say. She's got a little over 3 minutes left. My hopes have dimmed for any kind of specificity, but you never know. I may yet be validated.
Validation enables people to identify, process, and express their emotions more effectively.
Constant validation is childish. It coddles someone, it infantilizes them, and it insulates them from having to grow up.
And that just leads to more productive conversations.
Productive for who? Exactly.
But how is this actually showing up in our companies?
I don't know. I've been waiting 12 minutes and 26 seconds of your talk for something specific. By all means.
How are we not validating our people?
How are we not validating our people? Are we going to prove a negative here?
We can unpack a real quick example.
Oh my God! Oh, an example. All right, you know what? I'm going to I'm going to remove leaves out vital context. Okay. I mean, it might apply later, and there's arguments for it, but I've taken vital context off the board. All right. Give me an example. Even if it's a hypothetical, I'll take it. I mean, the only one you've given us so far was the bold thing. You're awfully bold, but now, okay, what's the example? Tell me.
Just bear with me.
I can only bear with you.
We have a new leader. We'll call him Simon.
Simon says?
Who's learned through this feedback process that his inability to make a decision without first gaining the consensus of his entire team is seemingly slowing their ability to make some progress.
Simon is a terrible leader. Is he the son of the owner by any chance?
So Simon was coached with some tactics to find this just right balance on both having confidence in his approach in making decisions while also considering the thoughts and opinions of others. Now, many leaders are not unfamiliar with some coaching in this space, especially new leaders. And nobody wants to make a decision for their team that might upset them.
Sure. Not without a whole lot of preamble and explanation first, because oftentimes, you have to be the bearer of bad news, that something has to be done, and we're not all going to enjoy it, but it just needs to get done, and let's get it done. And if you're working with professionals, then it shouldn't be that difficult of a conversation.
So what's wrong with just working to build their confidence? By just telling Simon to focus on building his confidence in his decisions, it may be adding to the anxiety that he was already feeling about having to do so.
So, wait a second. We're coming back around to the whole business case thing. So, are you arguing that by coddling his team members, it's actually going to benefit Simon? So if you're talking to people in the audience who are currently managers or owners or whatever else, supervisors, you're trying to make the case to them that, hey, if you pat your team members on the head and tell them what they want to hear, you'll be better off for it psychologically. This is all good for you guys. All you have to do is conform the world around my needs, and you'll be the one to benefit. That's what that sounds like to me. How about you guys?
Building his confidence isn't validating his discomfort. And so
Wait. Building his confidence isn't validating his discomfort. If you validate his discomfort, then he'll be wait. Wait a second. Okay. All right. I think she's scrambled my brain here. Okay. I come into a leadership position. I have some, personal self-esteem, self-confidence issues. Okay, I'm uncomfortable talking on a stage. I'm uncomfortable talking to a group. I have to master my fear, or my fear will become my master. But no, I have to validate my fear, and that will make my job easier?
maybe Simon had some past experiences where, he did make a decision and then he maybe got in trouble for it.
Maybe Simon should grow up and learn from his mistakes.
Or there might be a whole list of reasons that Simon has some anxiety in this space. But instead of taking the time to understand Simon, and instead of validating the potential collective experiences that he's had, Simon was just coached to show up stronger.
Yeah, because maybe, I know, this is a crazy idea. Speaking to a neurodivergent millennial, maybe Simon needs to take responsibility for his own life. Crazy.
To take these tips and tricks on how to be a better leader.
Mm-hmm.
People are open to growth.
We're all open to growth. I think it's part of the it's part of our was it the pineal gland or something? What contributes to our growth? I forget what it was. It's some little nugget inside of our brains when working properly.
But they're also sensitive to the pain of their past.
And that they need to leave at the door when they come to work and put on a professional exterior. Again, the benefits of professional distance.
And what's missing from our coaching and development process is both understanding the experiences that people have had that make them who they are, and allowing them to work within their natural style.
Okay, your example sucks. Your example doesn't explain anything. It doesn't clarify anything. I'm circling leaves out vital context. Again, you've got no time left to go further about this Simon guy or anything else, or how Simon would validate his own discomfort or massage his teammates into doing what they're supposed to do because that's what they're being paid for.
And so I think it's time for a change.
I'm sure you do.
I think it's time that we start recognizing all the little ways that we're traumatizing our people by inadvertently forcing them into these fabricated corporate boxes.
Oh, these fabricated corporate boxes. Right. Okay. So who's going to be laying down the eggshells in the office place for everybody to be walking on from now until the end of time? Is that going to be your job, or is that not validating enough for you? Where should that responsibility lie, do you think?
I think it's time that we learn how to navigate the workplace as a human place.
I put on the thumbnail trauma in the woke place as kind of just, obviously a very clever play on words, but I didn't know it would be this accurate.
But that change starts with all of you.
Oh, yes. It's
It
my
starts with
responsibility.
committing to showing up for yourself
How about you just show up to do your job?
and then advocating for, protecting, and encouraging others to do so as well.
What are you talking about?
You pave the way by actively and visibly embracing who you are and by celebrating others.
We buy a cake on everybody's birthday. What can I tell you?
And I believe that if we can start to recognize and admit to the fact that we are unintentionally traumatizing our employees, we can start to take the steps to make it right.
Steps which you will take absolutely no time in the course of this 16-minute talk to actually detail.
So validate your people.
Why? If they do their job, the paycheck is the validation.
Empower their authenticity.
I don't want their authenticity. I want their butt in the seat doing their job.
And start putting an end to your workplace trauma.
Oh, God. I sound like a cranky old man or something. I have practically zero sympathy for the world that she is describing. Absolutely, just nothing. But that's just me. That's just me, because now it is your time, everybody. Let's go over to the bingo card and assess this talk per the bingo card. Remember, this is bingo card C. If you don't already have yours ready, the links are in the description below. All right, this is the card as I have it right now. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them momentarily, and I will get to you presently. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am going to circle this because of neurodivergent, because of a lot of the rhetoric she used, validation and so on and so forth. Excuse me, backgrounds, experiences. There was a lot of keywords in there that fell within that mindset and that philosophy. So circling that one. A list. Did she give us a list? I understand that a list could be just two things. The only list I can think of was her listing off what she was diagnosed with. However, the only reason I'm hesitating is because that really wasn't a list. I was looking for something like, here's 3 steps to do this, that, or the other. Or here's 5 ways to validate your team. I was looking for something very specific, very overt. I didn't hear that. So I'm open to discussion elsewise, but it didn't seem like there was a list actually included in there. Patriarchy. Yeah. Well, I see here the anecdote that she gave about somebody say, well, you're bold. And then her reaction was, you don't think a woman can be a leader or something? That goes to patriarchy. I don't know that it necessarily goes to feminism, though. Well, it could be either or. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do the one, but I'm going to need a real good argument for the other, or a different example that would lead to the other. Contradicts own point, fails to make argument. Boy, howdy. She didn't succeed in anything about her argument or making her point or anything else. And as a result of
Bingo! What? Bingo! Yeah!
Of course! Of course!
we have our first bingo down the diagonal. Okay, feminism again. I'm going to leave that one up in the air. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new here. I just heard a lot of repetition of the word authenticity, microaggression. I didn't hear anything like something I like to call, etc. So, no, I don't think so. Systemic or institutional? Yes, because she talked about the conformity to corporate culture, the institutionalization of people, that kind of thing. So that was part of the spiel. White supremacy. She never did talk explicitly about race. She talked about marginalized groups and so on, but never got down to actually talking about race in particular. Childhood or family anecdotes? Surprisingly, no. She didn't bring up anything about her family or growing up or anything. It was all very current, let's say. as far as I can recall. Weightless example or non sequitur? Weightless example or non sequitur? I mean, so much of it was such word salad. I don't. Validation, authenticity, these terms used without any explanation otherwise or clarity. Yeah, I think that's fair. Sales pitch for product or service? Nope. I'm not even sure she was selling her own services on anything. Privilege. I didn't hear the word. I could see arguments, but I'll leave that. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No, because she was constantly the victim. She was constantly the one with the better idea. She was just not being given a chance, and on and on. This wasn't a situation where she was coming up there talking about white fragility or white privilege or something and saying, as a terrible, terrible white person, I know the damage that I've done, etc. So I didn't hear anything like that. And lastly, economic disparity. For as much as she talked about employment and working, she never really did talk about pay, strangely enough. So not clearly enough that I'll circle it, so I'll leave it there. Besides, it's 2 bingo squares, so that's going to be a high mountain to climb. So that's what the card is. I have it right now. If you guys have any arguments for squares to be circled, put them in the chat now. If I've missed your argument, please just repost it. I'll scroll up a little bit and see what we got. Sander Hammerschlag, Payardy Bayar. Careful, some of your coworkers might find that a microaggression, sexual harassment, or sexual assault. Wait, what? Payardy Bayar, what did you do? Oh my gosh. I don't know. Carlos Alfredo Lopez, not being validated every day is traumatizing. I know, right? I mean, if I don't show up every day and I'm not just like showered in praise for everything that I do, it's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Oh, yay, good for you. You went all by yourself. If I don't have that at the workplace, I just can't function. Abgas Diabli, Scribe Light, her other contradiction. Her having to conform for work is a microaggression. Her work conforming to her, on the other hand, though, is perfectly reasonable. That is true. Now, like I said, I was saying that before, is that her having to put on a professional demeanor for the people in the organization that is paying her to do a job, that's bad, right? But if the job, shapes itself around her needs, that's good. That's good. Can you imagine a company trying to shape itself around every single employee's personal needs, wants, and desires? Nothing would get done. It'd be an absolute circus. I'm trying to keep this family friendly. Miranda Stone, sales pitch for weight. Yeah, hey everybody. All you have to do is embrace your authentic self and you'll lose 30 pounds. You don't have to eat any less or exercise anymore. I'll take that under advisement. Frosted Glass, Scribe Light, a typical new buzzword. I have ADHD. I thought that was isn't that a real term though? Like an actual medical term? Well, maybe not an actual medical term. It's something, she didn't come up with that on her own, did she? If that's not I think I've heard that before. Frosted Glass, a list. She said there were people good at working with others, people who are okay at people. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. The bell chart, the bell curve thing. Okay. Fair enough. That is certainly a list. And so.
Bingo. What?
Of course!
We have our second bingo. Oh my gosh. All right. Anybody else? Miranda Stone, I was kidding. No, you make a slightly compelling argument, but it's still funny. Let's see. Advocates Diably, ADHD is a real term. Yeah, I figured. I don't think she would be showcasing what really justifies her being self-centered if it wasn't something that she could quote as being real. That gives it that more, air of authenticity. Let's see. Davina Duckworth, WTF? What? What I do? What? Yes, I looked at. Okay, yeah. ADHD is a real thing. I'm putting it in like single quotation marks because it probably is a real thing on some level, but in our speaker's case, it really felt like I just got a license to complain kind of deal, or sound like I'm smarter than everybody else in the room because I perceive the world differently. I experienced that once, or at least I was told that once, and I always thought it was ridiculous. Not to brag, and I'm not, because it was not a fun experience being ostracized from the rest of my peer group. But when I was growing up, I was in the what you'd call the gifted class. All that meant was they gave us work in school that was about a grade or two above where we were at. And the rest of the kids in the school thought we were getting special treatment or candy every day or something. And so we all became outcasts. But we had a substitute teacher one day, and it's burned into my memory. I'll never forget this. A substitute teacher walked in, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love teaching in the gifted classes because when a regular person walks into a room, they just might see one thing or this other thing or that. But when a gifted child walks into the room, they see everything at once." And I thought to myself, if I saw everything at once, I think I would go crazy. And I was in like third grade at this time. I was like, this lady doesn't know what she's talking about. But she was really excited to be dealing with gifted kids, I guess. I don't know how gifted she was. That's all I remember about her. Let's see. Carlos Alfredo Lopez. She didn't sound smart enough to try to coin a new buzzword term. Who knows? But here's the thing. If she had, I would have given her the validation of circling the square. Advocata. She was going over all the hardships already marginalized people have. Didn't she intimate they needed the jobs the most, so economic disparity? No, she was trying to say that marginalized people are particularly sensitive to microaggressions. I don't think she was talking about jobs specifically. She was talking about, again, microaggressions affecting people in a negative way. And she was saying that marginalized people are already in a sensitive way because obviously they are, because of what they are, or something. Let's see. Advocates, I notice everything in a room. LOL. Everything? I don't know. I've done some of those hidden object games, and I don't necessarily notice everything all at once. But she said if it made them leave, it would make a bad thing worse. Yeah, but is that economic disparity specifically? Because if like they're already constantly marginalized and then they feel like they can't work at this place, that would just mean losing a job. That wasn't comparing, contrasting economies. So I don't know if that quite fits. But I'm open to more discussion on it. Toot Sweet, it's real in her mind. Yeah, as long as it's real in her mind. All right. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? We have feminism, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, white supremacy, childhood or family anecdote, sales pitch for product or service, privilege, self-vilification or wretchedness, and economic disparity. Anything else? I thought, did she? See, it's difficult for me to assess whether or not at the beginning of the talk, when she was describing her own workplace behavior, whether or not she was confessing to it or if she was showcasing it as what someone would think of her, which is just part of her whole plays victim thing, and not actually owning it. And I'm not inclined to rewind and listen to it again. So that might be something for somebody to clarify in a follow-up comment. Let's see. Frosted Glass, Scarlet, privilege. She talks about how people who are natural leaders have it easy as opposed to people like Simon. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. And she also talked about the office politics and stuff. It's easier. Yeah. Okay. All right. You know what? Fair enough. when you push into a victim narrative long enough, you're probably going to have to contrast that with somebody who doesn't have to suffer the way that you do. So there you go. Privilege on the board. All right. Good call. Good call. Any last minute claims for the bingo card? Let me know in the next minute or two. In the meantime, I'll do a little bit of house cleaning here. First and foremost, if you haven't already, leave a like if you like this kind of thing. And if you're on X or you're anywhere near X and you see this posted, please share it out there, retweet it, whatever else you're doing. Appreciate it. Let's see. Programming note. There will be no Sunday stream this week, as I will be out of town visiting my parents. I'll be back Sunday, hopefully afternoon-ish, but I certainly won't be here for Sunday morning. And so I don't know if I will do a stream at some time Sunday. I'm not planning on it, so don't bet on it. So the next time you might see me is tomorrow morning on Midnight's Edge in the morning. We'll be talking about, I assume, the new Chuck Dixon movie that's coming out. Maybe we'll talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which has been pushed back again, or something Marvel-based. Who knows? A whole bunch of entertainment and pop culture things to talk about on Midnight's Edge in the morning, tomorrow morning at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, 12:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's see. Anything else? Perfect. I'll be out of town too. Well then, we won't miss anything at all. Except each other. But anyway, everyone, I think I'm going to call it here. Again, if you guys have any other arguments for squares to be circled, please do leave them in the comments below if you're listening to this on replay. Or if something occurs to you in the meantime and you'd like to tell me directly, in such a fashion as you might, you can always go to the Discord server. Did you know I have a Discord server? Well, I have a Discord server. There's a link to the Discord server in the chat right now. All you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watch the show, are not a bot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is authenticity. Just say hello, authenticity, and I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, if you're not already subscribed, please think about subscribing. I'd appreciate it if you did, but if you don't, that's okay. And otherwise, anything else I want to say for nothing occurs. I'm sure I'll think of it afterwards and it'll be very important. Oh, yes. Also at the top of the chat box, if you haven't already, please do donate or think about donating, or at least click on or share the link to the Global Giving charity for helping out with the wildfire relief in California. That is an ongoing thing as I broadcast now, and I'll probably turn right back to getting an update on that because I have friends in California and family elsewise, and it's not pretty. And fortunately, fingers crossed, knock Formica, they are still safe as they were. I think they're a bit more south from where everything's happening, but all the same, everybody, the devastation, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off. Yeah, the Palisades, it looks like the aftermath of Hiroshima or something. It's insane. So if you have a couple of bucks to spare, please consider donating there. I will be doing so myself, and thank you for that. But elsewise, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or again to the donation link at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Otherwise, everybody, hope you have a good rest of your night tonight. Hope you have a good Friday ahead of you and weekend elsewise. I might not see you this weekend, but I'll certainly see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of TED Excellence. But until then, everyone, I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.